Musketeers, and welcome to Mondays with Mickey. My name is Mike Nicky, and I am your host, and this is the week of December 14th, 2015. This week, we're going to go ahead and finish up my coverage on the trip we took back in September, our visit specifically to Disney's Hollywood Studios. I'm going to talk about our top three, bottom three experiences. I'm going to talk about One Man's Dream, Fantasmic, and some of our character meet and greets. But before we get into that, I do have some news for you. The news all comes from Animal Kingdom. The first piece of news being that they've actually added another animal to the Kilimanjaro safaris, the painted dog. I don't have a lot of information yet about it. I know that it has popped up. I've heard several people mention that they've seen it there. So I'm imagining that Disney will come out with more of a press release once they've kind of gotten a feel for how the animal is doing in its new environment and how it's doing with the safari itself. My guess is this is probably a test run just to make sure everything's going well. And then once they know that it's going well, they'll probably announce that they've added a new animal to the safari. But that's the feedback I'm getting from people that are down there right now. And they said they've seen the painted dogs on exhibit there. And I've seen some pictures, and it looks pretty cool. Along with that, some actual announcements from Disney's Animal Kingdom. Tiffin's Restaurant. They're opening up a brand new restaurant called Tiffin's Restaurant, and it's going to be celebrating the art of traveling. And the understanding I have so far is that the menu is going to basically take its inspiration from the locations that the park was inspired by. You know, places like Africa, China, all these, the Himalayan mountains, all these places that they went for their inspiration to create the different lands in Disney's Animal Kingdom. This restaurant will celebrate their native foods. So no details as to what they're going to be serving, just where they're getting their inspiration from. It's going to have a waterfront view, and it's going to open up in spring of 2016 along with the debut of Rivers of Light, the nighttime show, as well as the Sunset Kilimanjaro Safaris. So a lot of stuff in spring of 2016 coming to Animal Kingdom. It's nice to see some of these things finally finishing up and getting in place. The restaurant I'm very curious about. I can't wait to see them bring out more information, more details about the foods that they're going to be carrying. But it is cool to hear that another restaurant's opening up and that it's going to be a waterfront view. So I wonder if you can watch Rivers of Light from the restaurant. I don't know. We'll see. But that's all I have for news this week. Not a lot. You know, I figured I'd just keep it kind of simple. So before we get into all the nuts and bolts of finishing up Disney's Hollywood Studios, I have a video. So take a look and I'll be right back.
Streets and
Alright, well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video. You know, it was basically all the odds and ends. Stuff that we did, pictures we took, like Mr. Gold's pawn shop and stuff like that. You saw little bits of Phantasmic in there. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we're going to get into the nuts and bolts here. I'm going to start with One Man's Dream. One Man's Dream is quite possibly my favorite attraction at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Originally, it was announced that it was going to be a temporary attraction, just celebrating Walt, but it ended up sticking around. Now, some bits and pieces have been yanked out over the years, like Walt's office has been yanked out and things like that, but it's kind of stuck around, and it's one of my favorite attractions because I'm a history buff. And, you know, when you walk in, it's a self-guided tour, and you start on one side, and it starts at the beginning of Walt's career, back before he came up with Oswald, and right when he's coming up with Oswald. And it just slowly progresses through Oswald, losing Oswald, getting Mickey, starting, you know, with cartoons with Mickey, talking about the multi-plane camera. It talks about the World's Fair, talks about great moments with Mr. Lincoln, and actually has one of the animatronic Lincolns there. Of course, pretty much all the coverings are off, but it's his face, and you can see the mechanics inside. They have pretty much his entire life and the progression of his company. They have a stand-up of him holding a cane up at Epcot, what was supposed to be Epcot, the Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow, when he did his little presentation on what that was supposed to be. And they have little film cameras there showing WED, Walter Elias Disney Enterprises, filming him talking about Epcot. And it's just really cool. It's a historical journey, but it's not just history, it's also future too, because after you get through all the historical parts, you start getting into what's coming next. They had displays on Disneyland Paris, they had displays on Shanghai Disney, they had displays on that, they had pictures of stuff that was coming for Animal Kingdom. So they have a whole section devoted towards what is happening across the world and what's still to come. They had really cool props like the rocket pack from The Rocketeer, for those who remember that movie. So just a lot of fun historical things to walk through. And like I say, if you're a history buff, walking through One Man's Dream is really, really cool. Now, at the end of One Man's Dream is a video. And this video is specifically on Walt's life. It's kind of a short biography on him as a child and growing up through his life and towards the end when he passed away and how things proceeded afterwards. Really heartwarming video, very nostalgic. Right now, unfortunately, it's not visible, not available to watch because they have like a preview going on inside that theater. But normally, when there's not a preview going inside the theater, you get to watch that video at the end of your trip through One Man's Dream. Really cool thing for those history buffs. Also, should you be interested in becoming an honorary citizen of Walt Disney World, there is a game you can play, and this is how you do it. You've probably noticed in the pictures, there was a picture of me holding up a certificate and a button, and the certificate shows that I've completed, the requirements as an honorary citizen of Walt Disney World, and I have a button that says honorary citizen and all that. I got that by playing this game. And this is how you do it. At the very opening, the entrance to the attraction, there will be a cast member standing there. And you can just ask them, hey, I'd like to play the game. How do I do that? And they'll point you towards where they have like a stack of papers. And it's basically like a 4-question quiz and some pencils. And you take this paper through the attraction. And you're looking for the answers to these questions using the attraction. Like there's a point where there's a video. It's an old promotional video where Tinkerbell is leading you through, showing the different lands for the opening of Disneyland. One of the questions is, what are the lands that Tinkerbell shows you? Things like that. And so you go through the attraction, you find the answers, fill them out, and then at the very end, right before you go into the video, you find a cast member. And say, hey look, I did the game, I want to turn this in. And what they do is they check your answers, make sure your answers are correct. And then they obviously ask you your name. They fill out your certificate. Well, while they're filling out your certificate and grabbing your button, they grab this notebook. And it's a register of all the honorary citizens of Walt Disney World. and they encourage you to write something in it, not only your name and where you're from, but they encourage you, if you want to be creative, draw a little cartoon figure, go for it. If you want to do like a little haiku, go for it. Whatever you want to do to have fun with it, go for it. Enjoy yourself. It's your opportunity to write something down and be a part of the history of Walt Disney World. So it's a really cool thing to take part in. It doesn't cost anything extra. It's all part of the attraction. And for those who are history buffs and really like that kind of thing, this is the attraction to check out. And honestly, I would recommend checking out as soon as possible, because there are always rumors about this attraction being shut down. And of course, seeing situations where they're using the theater and to show previews of like Good Dinosaur and whatnot, that doesn't help matters. It lends further credence to the possibility that they're going to close this attraction down. Personally, if they choose to close this particular attraction down, my hope would be is they build a new location for it and expand upon it and really delve into it. There's a lot of history for Walt and the company across the country in California. There's not a ton in Walt Disney World. And being that the Florida project was his dream and he never got to see it finished, I think it's more important than ever, since Walt never got the opportunity to walk here other than seeing the initial grounds for the castle and whatnot. Since he never actually got to be part of the parks themselves, this is an important addition that I think needs to stay. And I really hope that if they do decide to close this location, that they have plans for a much bigger and more elaborate version. But the Imagineers have control of that, not me. We'll see what happens. So next up is going to be our meet and greets. Now, the first meet and greet we did isn't really a meet and greet. It is, but it isn't. It's the Cars meet and greet. Okay, this is a cool attraction. It's over kind of the area where like the Muppets and stuff are. It is a meet and greet. It's with Mater and Lightning McQueen. You guys saw pictures of us standing with Mater and Lightning McQueen. But they're not the audio animatronic versions, or if they are, they're not turned on. So it's basically their statues. You get to go over, stand next to them, take pictures with them. It's really cool. If they do move, they don't move for this meet and greet. It's not like out in Disneyland where you have the ones that actually roll around and stuff like that. They just kind of hang out here. So if your kids are fans of the Cars movies, it's a great opportunity, a great photo opportunity to take a picture with the characters. I mean, I loved seeing them. They're really cool. They're people size, so they were really, really cool to see. But they weren't very interactive. So great pictures, not necessarily the best meet and greet. There was another meet and greet right in that area we didn't take advantage of just because we had other things we had to do. Phineas and Ferb, we saw it, and they obviously do interact. It's much more involved because they're actual talking characters or moving characters. So, if your kids are into Phineas and Ferb, check it out because it looks like they have a lot of fun with the kids. The other meet and greet was my favorite meet and greet of the entire trip. And this, when I say favorite, it even challenges the talking Mickey in Magic Kingdom. And the only reason why it challenges that Mickey is because this is a Mickey as well. This is Sorcerer Mickey. And one of my favorite characters, absolute favorite characters in all of Disney is Sorcerer Mickey. So when they closed the Animation Academy, unfortunately Sorcerer Mickey's meet and greet was there. And I never got a chance to go and see that. And I was really bummed about it. When I heard they closed it before we got there, I was very bummed because I didn't think I was going to get to see him. So as we're walking through Disney's Hollywood Studios and we're checking things out, we come up across the entrance to the old backlot tour. And we realize Sorcerer Mickey is holding his meet and greet there. Unbelievably excited. Truly happy to see that he's around. And I could not waste that opportunity. Obviously, you saw pictures. We got pictures with Sorcerer Mickey. Truly cool. No, he didn't get to talk with us. He's not the audio animatronic like there is at Magic Kingdom. But still, a great opportunity to see my favorite character and take a picture with him. Him and Stitch are neck and neck for favorite characters. So, an opportunity to take a picture with both of them, because I'll talk about that later, my picture with Stitch later. An opportunity to take a picture with Sorcerer Mickey was one I just couldn't pass up. I was so excited to do it. So, we did the meet and greet with Sorcerer Mickey as a family right there on the entrance to the old backlot tour, and all the stuff, all the memorabilia, like pictures of battleships and props and stuff like that, are all still there in that entranceway. So it was kind of nostalgic to be there around the old attraction, and cool to see Sorcerer Mickey. It's shaded enough where you're not cooking as bad, and you can get halfway decent pictures. So hopefully once they finish everything up with this remodel of Disney's Hollywood Studios, he'll have a permanent and more themed home. But still glad to see that they made room for the boss at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And finally, of the actual things we did at Disney's Hollywood Studios, I'm going to talk about Fantasmic. Fantasmic is neck and neck with One Man's Dream. It's actually probably my favorite attraction at all of Walt Disney World. It is a show where Mickey Mouse faces off against his deadliest nightmares and comes out with all the major characters, and you get to see brilliant water effects, fire effects, lighting. You see Mickey saving the day. I don't want to give away too many details of the attraction. It is slightly different also for those who have seen it like at Disneyland or elsewhere. It is slightly different. Every location for Fantasmic is slightly different. But the premise is still there. If you really want to see spoilers for Fantasmic, look it up on YouTube. There's plenty of videos out there. But even the videos at Fantasmic are pale in comparison to what it's really like. This is an attraction I experienced 15 years ago when I went with my family. When I say my family, like my mother, stepfather, brother, sister, all that. We went out to, that was my first real trip to Walt Disney World. And I really didn't want to go to Fantasmic. My brother kept telling everyone, "Oh, it's fantastic. We've got to see it. It's probably the best thing here." I didn't believe him. I was moody. I didn't want to go. But we went anyway, and I was shocked. And it became my favorite attraction, my favorite show at Walt Disney World. Illuminations gets close up there. You know, the Millennium Walk, which isn't around anymore at Epcot, that's really was up there. But as far as consistently, Fantasmic is awesome. We tried to go back in 2011 when I took my family with my kids and my wife, and unfortunately we sat there for a couple hours and got rained out. And since it was our last opportunity to see it, we completely missed Fantasmic that year. And I was bummed because I really wanted them to experience the show because I knew how amazing it was. So this year we made another go at it. This time we did fast passes for it, so we didn't have to sit outside and wait forever. And worst case scenario, if it did rain out, at least we didn't have to kill all that time waiting for it just to rain out. So we did fast passes for it, and because we had that one day in flux at the end of the trip, we knew that if it got rained out, we could, worst case scenario, do a second day at Disney's Hollywood Studios and check out Fantasmic. Because we didn't do park hoppers, so we were kind of limited in that way. So, we lucked out. It thundered a little bit, it lightninged quite a bit, but it never rained, and they did the show anyway. And my family were dumbstruck. They were so excited. To see their faces watching it, and after we left, you could tell they understood why it was so important to me for them to see it. And it was definitely well worth the waits from the previous trip, and the little bit of wait we had, and the concern from this trip of the weather. So, wonderful attraction, like I said. It's a story about Mickey and experiencing his dreams and taking control of his reality, and there's just too much to explain. You have to watch it to see it, to understand it. And even like I said, even if you watch it on YouTube, it pales in comparison to in person. So if you're going to be in Walt Disney World, this is a show not to be missed. I know they're closing a lot of stuff at Disney's Hollywood Studios, but hey, look, think of it this way. They're opening a ton of stuff, too. They're opening a bunch of Star Wars stuff going on right now. So, you know, even if Star Wars isn't your bag, there's plenty of other things to do there, and it's well worth taking a day to go to Disney's Hollywood Studios and check this out. So, that's Fantasmic. So, we're going to go on to bottom 3 experiences and top 3 experiences. Now, with this park in flux, you can imagine where most of those bottom experiences are going to come from. And I actually had to scratch my head and think about some of this stuff. And some of these experiences, particularly on the negative side, aren't negative experiences so much as they are experiences we didn't get to have. So starting with number 3, we'll work our way up. We're going to start with Backlot Tour being gone. Now, I know this ride is kind of out of date. I know this ride was something that, with the change in personality of Disney's Hollywood Studios and the fact that they're going away from it being an actual working studio, they're going to get rid of Streets. There's talk of them getting rid of Streets of America and things like that. With all that coming, I get why they got rid of the Backlot Tour. But the Backlot Tour falls into the category of the great movie ride for me. It is a classic piece of Disney's Hollywood Studios, and it's a ride well worth keeping. There's a lot of special little things that you got to see on this Backlot Tour that people wouldn't get to see otherwise. Like the ship from Flight of the Navigator. I mean, how many kids get to see that? There was like the skiffs from Return of the Jedi. I think there was like a snow speeder, if I'm not mistaken, that you got to see from Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back. The whole canyon scene where the truck blows up and the water comes down. These are all really cool things to experience. You get to see Walt's plane. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff on that Backlot Tour, and I was really bummed that they closed it. I understand why they did, but I was bummed to see them close it. I'm hoping, I know it's probably a long shot hope, I'm hoping that when they build new Toy Story Land, the new Star Wars Land, that they incorporate a new version of Backlot Tour, because it was a very nostalgic ride, just like Great Movie Ride, and it's one of those things I had to ride every time I went, just because it's part of the flavor of the park. So that was the first disappointment. Second disappointment is Disney's Animation Academy being gone. Now, yes, in downtown Disney there is still a Disney's Animation Academy. It's in Disney Quest. But Disney Quest is getting ready to go away, which means that Animation Academy is getting ready to go away too. But even so, the two Animation Academies were different. The one in downtown Disney is completely done on digital screens. So it's like drawing on a computer screen. The Animation Academy at Hollywood Studios, that one was on paper. And you actually hand drew your souvenir. And it was something that was actually done by your hand. You can get copies of the images you drew at the one at Disney Quest, but it's just not the same. It's a printed reproduction of what you did. The actual work that you did, the actual character drawing you did, was your souvenir at Disney's Hollywood Studios. You make a mistake, the erase marks, there's certain little nuances of doing something on paper that you won't get from a digital reproduction. So seeing that it was gone and not being able to do it, because I was actually really looking forward, I wanted to do that this year, was kind of a bummer. I'm glad that my daughter got to do it down at Disney Quest. I was going to do it myself, but then when I realized it was all on the digital screen, I was like, forget it. I'd rather do it on paper. So, with both of them going away, I'm very bummed to see it go away, because let's face it, animation is where the Walt Disney Company made its bones. It's the bread and butter of the Walt Disney Company. And to see a piece of hand-drawn animation going away is a real disappointment. So I'm hoping that, when they revamp Disney's Hollywood Studios, that they create a brand new Animation Academy. One that will continue to celebrate hand-drawn animation and what brought Disney to where it is today. So now, with that said, on the flip side of the coin, I wasn't there for this part, obviously. The new Star Wars launch bay is in the old Animation Academy building. So if it's got to go, at least it went for something really cool. So, again, hopes and prayers that they will open up a new one, but we'll see what happens. So on to the top 3. Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't finished off all the bottom 3. The number 1 bottom thing is a personal thing. The last time we went to Walt Disney World, back in 2011, we went into this little Christmas store. It's a little hole-in-the-wall Christmas store. It was, I believe it was over by Muppets and all that, or by Pizza Plant, in that general vicinity. It was just a really small Christmas store. We're talking the size of almost a bathroom. I mean, it was really small. But last time we went in there, we found these really cool Disney ornaments. Basically, they're Mickey ear ornaments, but they're clear. Well, not clear, but like different colored see-through ornaments. So I guess they were clear, but they were colored. Like red, blue, green, all that. They were like your regular glass ornaments, but they had the little round Mickey ears on the top. Like mini ornaments on top. But they were perfect. They weren't like homemade type ones. They looked good. They were done right. And we went there looking for those this time because we didn't have the money the last time. But we did this trip. And they didn't carry them anymore. And the cast member I spoke to, unfortunately, I think she said she somewhat remembered those at some point, but she hadn't seen them in a really long time. I found like very small versions of those, and those were really cool too. I could put those on my mini tree, which would have been great. But that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for the big ones. I may go back and get the mini ones later at a later date, like next year, just because we did start a small Disney Christmas tree. But I wanted the big ones. I wanted the big ones for our big tree, and I was kind of bummed that they didn't have them there. That was probably my biggest disappointment of the trip to Disney's Hollywood Studios. It's nothing that they did wrong. The trip was awesome. We had fun. But it was something I was really looking forward to grabbing, and unfortunately it just wasn't there. So, now on to positive stuff. The top experiences. Number 3 being One Man's Dream. I've already talked about it. Favorite attraction, like ride type attraction, probably in all of Walt Disney World, because I'm a history buff. And seeing where it all comes from is important to me. And plus I got to become an honorary citizen of Walt Disney World, and I will have that. I have that picture. I have a picture of me holding stuff. I have the card that I did the answers on, as well as the card, the certificate I got, all framed up, and I'm trying to find a way to properly hot glue the pin, not the pin, but the button to the frame so I can hang it up with all my Disney stuff at my desk. Definitely my favorite attraction, so that's number 3. Number 2, and this was very tight with number 1, is meeting Sorcerer Mickey. Favorite character of all time. What can I say? He's at the top of the list. I love having the opportunity to meet him and take a picture of myself with him. Not just with the family, but a picture with me and him was awesome. And of course, number 1, again, really close to Sorcerer Mickey, would be Fantasmic, which you see Sorcerer Mickey in. So, Fantasmic, favorite show at Walt Disney World. Really close to Illuminations. I really love Illuminations. Mainly because when I went to Millennium, it all tied in. But Fantasmic, consistently and is continually my favorite show at Walt Disney World. So that was my number 1 experience from my trip to Disney's Hollywood Studios this time around. And with that, that concludes our Disney Hollywood Studios visit. We only visited one day, so this is the end of the Hollywood Studios talk for now. So next week, I'm going to start a review, I'm going to do a complete review rather, on Disney's All-Star Sports Resort. That's where we stayed on this trip in 2015. I'm going to talk about some of the dining. I'm going to probably talk about the refillable mugs. I'm going to talk about the room, the accommodations all over the place. And I'm going to just give you a feel for what it was like staying there. Show you some of the little nitty-gritty details of, the way they themed the different areas and all that kind of fun stuff. So we're going to talk about Disney's Hollywood Studios, Disney's All-Star Sports Resort next week. I'm also going to talk a little bit about Christmas decorations, stuff that we've done to keep the Disney spirit alive here at home for the holiday season. So with that said, thank you for watching. I'm going to leave you as I leave you every week. Walt said it best. I hope we never lose sight of one thing. This was all started by a mouse. Thank you very much, so much for watching this week. I truly appreciate every one of you that takes the time to watch my ugly mug talk about Disney. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you then.